Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Aaron had always dreamed of a better life. He worked tirelessly as an engineer on a small human colony, a place far from Earth. The colony was struggling, resources were scarce, and the constant need for repairs and upgrades kept Aaron busy. Despite his skills, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was stuck in a never-ending cycle of work. His life was ordinary, predictable, and far from the adventures he had once imagined as a child. One evening, after another exhausting day of fixing machinery, Aaron received an unexpected communication. It was from a mysterious alien race known as the Solari. The message was short, but it held an offer that caught his attention. "Aaron, son of the Earth colony," the message began. "We extend an invitation for you to join us in a sacred union, a marriage that will unite your world and ours, a partnership that will protect your future. The marriage contract is already prepared. If you agree, you will meet your bride on the day of the ceremony." Aaron stared at the message in disbelief. He had heard of the Ilari, an advanced and secretive alien species, but he never imagined they would contact him, let alone offer him a marriage contract. There was no explanation for why he had been chosen, nor did the message offer any further details, just an invitation and a promise of something greater. He sat there, his mind racing. A marriage to an alien? It sounded like something out of a science fiction novel. Yet, this was real. But life on the colony was hard, and Aaron had always been told that alliances with other species were the way forward for survival. Perhaps this was his chance to escape his monotonous existence and be part of something bigger. He had nothing to lose. Without thinking further, Aaron responded, accepting the offer. He had no idea what lay ahead, but he knew one thing for sure: this was his opportunity to change everything. The days leading up to the wedding were a blur. The auxiliary provided him with everything he needed: new clothes, a place to stay, and instructions on how to prepare for the ceremony. Aaron had never seen any of the Tilari in person before. They kept to themselves, and their interactions with humans were limited. All he knew was that the Ari were known for their beauty and their mysterious ways. No human had ever been allowed to marry one of their kind, and it was said that their weddings were shrouded in secrecy. On the day of the ceremony, Aaron found himself standing in a grand hall unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls were made of shimmering materials that glowed faintly in the dim light. Tall, elegant beings moved silently around the room, their features hidden beneath long, flowing cloaks. The air was thick with anticipation, and Aaron couldn't help but feel nervous. He had never imagined a wedding like this, so distant, so foreign. The auxiliary elders appeared, their voices low and melodic as they spoke in a language that Aaron couldn't understand. The ceremony was conducted in silence, with strange rituals taking place around him. The air seemed to hum with energy as he stood at the center of the room, waiting for his bride. He had never met her before, never even seen a picture of her. This was the way of the Ari. They valued the mystery, the ritual, and the connection that would be forged when their lives intertwined. Then, as if on cue, the room fell silent. Aaron's heart raced as the doors at the far end of the hall opened. A figure entered, draped in a long silver veil that shimmered in the dim light. The air seemed to shift as she stepped forward, and Aaron could feel the weight of her presence before she even spoke. Her voice, when it came, was like music, soft and soothing, but with an underlying power that sent a chill down Aaron's spine. "I am Alara," she said, her tone filled with both warmth and authority. "Your bride, and today we become one." Aaron could only nod, his mind swirling with confusion and wonder. This was it, the moment that would change his life forever. The ceremony proceeded, and though he could not see her face, he felt a deep connection to her as they exchanged vows. A strange energy filled the room. Aaron had no idea what was happening, but he couldn't deny that there was something powerful between them, something unspoken, something that went beyond words. It was as though their souls had already intertwined, even before they had met. Finally, As the ceremony came to a close, the Suxillary elders spoke, "The contract is complete. You are now bound to each other in spirit and in body. The union is sealed." And with that, Aaron's life as he knew it was over. What lay ahead was unknown. His new bride, Elara, had promised that he would soon understand everything, but for now, the only certainty was that everything had changed. As they left the hall together, Aaron couldn't help but feel a strange sense of anticipation. He had married a mysterious alien bride without ever seeing her, and he was about to discover just how much that decision would change everything. The grand hall was silent as Aaron stood beside his new bride Era. His heart beat wildly in his chest, and he couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and confusion. The ceremony had just ended, and although he was now married to this mysterious woman, he still had not seen her face. The room around them was dimly lit with soft, shimmering lights floating along the walls like stars in the night sky. The air felt thick, almost alive with energy. Everything about the Axillari was otherworldly, and Aaron, still processing the shock of it all, struggled to keep up with the flow of events. Elara remained at his side, her long silver veil hanging over her face, concealing her features. The veil glowed faintly, as if it were made of some delicate, luminous material. Aaron couldn't see her eyes, but he felt her gaze on him, calm and steady. He could feel a strange pull between them, a kind of connection that went beyond physical touch. It was as though they were already linked by some invisible force, and that force was only growing stronger with each passing second. Thylery elders, who had conducted the ceremony, now stood in front of them, their tall forms draped in flowing robes that shimmered like the stars themselves. Their faces were hidden, just as Elara's was. They spoke in a low, melodic language that Aaron couldn't understand. The words were strange, foreign, and yet he felt as though they were somehow familiar, as if his very being could almost comprehend the meaning behind them. One of the elders, a woman with long silver hair, stepped forward and placed a hand on Aaron's shoulder. Her touch was light, but Aaron could feel an incredible weight behind it, like a promise or a warning. "You have now entered into the sacred bond of the auxiliary," she said in perfect English, her voice soft but powerful. "This union is not like any you have known. It is a bond that transcends time, space, and even understanding. You are now one with Elara, and together you will shape the future of both your worlds." Aaron felt a shiver run down his spine. He had agreed to this union without fully understanding what it meant, and now, as the words settled in his mind, the gravity of the situation began to weigh on him. He was no longer just a man from Earth, he was part of something much larger, something unknown, something that held the fate of entire civilizations in its hands. The elder continued, "The marriage ceremony is complete, but the true union begins tonight. Until then, you will remain separate, as is the custom of the Axillari. You must wait for the night, for only then will you truly understand the nature of your bond." With that, the elders turned and left the room, their movements graceful and swift, as though they were never truly there at all. The silence that followed felt heavy, almost oppressive, and Aaron glanced at Elara, still unsure of what to say or do. He had never been in a situation like this before. His whole life had been about fixing machines, solving problems, and living day by day, but now he was married to an alien, and everything about his life had changed. "Shall we go?" Aar's voice broke through the silence, gentle and calm. She stepped forward, her veil shimmering as she moved. Aaron nodded, unable to form the words he wanted to say. He followed her out of the hall, his mind racing. The vast corridors of the ship stretched out before him, bathed in the same soft light that had filled the ceremony room. The architecture was elegant, with curved walls and floating platforms that seemed to defy gravity. Everything about this place was unlike anything Aaron had ever seen, and he couldn't help but feel both awestruck and small in its presence. Era led him to a private chamber at the far end of the ship. The door opened with a soft hiss, revealing a room that was simple yet luxurious. The walls were made of a smooth, silvery material that reflected the soft light around them, creating an ethereal glow. In the center of the room was a large bed, draped in the same shimmering fabric as Ari's veil. Aaron stood at the doorway, unsure of what to do next. He had agreed to this marriage, but what did it mean? What was expected of him now? Elara turned to him, her figure still veiled in mystery. She stepped toward him, and the space between them seemed to pulse with energy, as though the room itself was reacting to their presence. "This is our night, Aaron," she said softly, her voice carrying a weight of meaning he couldn't fully grasp. "The bond between us will grow stronger, but it is not only our connection that will change. You will change as well. You must be ready." Before he could respond, Elara gently lifted her veil. Aaron's breath caught in his throat as he saw her for the first time. She was beautiful, but it was a beauty that was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered with a soft, otherworldly glow, and her eyes were like two deep pools of light, swirling with colors he couldn't even name. There was something ancient and wise about her, and yet something fragile, as if she were a being on the edge of something vast and unknown. "Are you ready?" she asked, her eyes locking with his. Aaron swallowed hard, his mind still reeling from everything that had happened. He had no idea what was coming, but in that moment, he knew one thing for certain: his life would never be the same, and whatever lay ahead, he was in it now, bound to this mysterious alien woman in ways he could not yet understand. "Yes," he said quietly, though he wasn't sure if he was ready at all. And with that, the room seemed to come alive, and Aaron realized that everything he had known was about to be transformed forever. The air in the room was thick with anticipation. Aaron stood frozen, his mind racing, heart pounding in his chest. Era had just lifted her veil, revealing her true form to him for the first time. For a moment, Aaron couldn't find the words. He had seen the veiled figure before him, but now, with her true face exposed, she seemed even more captivating, more than he could have ever imagined. Her skin shimmered softly, a delicate shade of silver, as if moonlight had been woven into her very being. Her eyes, deep and infinite, were unlike any human eyes. They glowed with swirling colors, vibrant blues, rich purples, and glistening whites that shifted and danced like galaxies in motion. Her gaze held an ancient wisdom, and yet there was a warmth to it that immediately calmed Aaron. It was as if she knew everything about him, and still she accepted him, flaws and all. Aaron had seen many different species during his time in the colony, but none had the ethereal quality that Elar possessed. Her beauty was not of the earthly kind, it was something far more profound, something beyond what words could fully express. He was speechless, not knowing if he should speak, stare, or do something else entirely. "Elara." Aaron finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper. He swallowed hard, trying to shake off the feeling of awe that seemed to grip him. "You're—" "Yes, I am different," Era said, her voice soft yet clear, like a melody carried by the wind. "But not in the way you might think." She stepped closer, her movements fluid and graceful, like she was floating just above the ground. Aaron couldn't help but feel a strange pull toward her, as if their connection was more than just physical. There was something deeper, something almost spiritual. For the first time, Elara's eyes seemed to soften, and a small smile tugged at the corners of her lips. "Do you understand now?" she asked. Aaron nodded slowly, still trying to wrap his head around the reality of the situation. "I think so, but I don't know what this means. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. This is all so different." Era placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, her touch warm and comforting despite the coolness of her skin. "You are not alone, Aaron. The bond between us is more than just a marriage. It's a connection that will change you in ways you cannot yet understand. We are bound by something greater than either of us. This is not just for you or for me, but for both our worlds." Aaron looked into her eyes, searching for answers, but all he found was a deep, unspoken truth that left him with more questions. The weight of what she said settled in his chest, a connection beyond just marriage. His mind raced as he tried to piece everything together. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice steadying though his mind was far from calm. What exactly is this bond? What am I supposed to do? The bond will awaken in time, Era explained. It is not something that can be explained fully with words. It is something you must experience. The union we share goes beyond the physical. It ties our energy together, our very essence. You will begin to sense things you never could before, things that are beyond the limits of human perception. This will be both a gift and a challenge. Aaron took a step back, his eyes widening as he tried to understand. So this bond makes me different. Yes, Ar said with a gentle nod. It connects us in ways that are hard to describe. You will feel it. Even now, you may not notice it yet, but it will come. The more time we spend together, the stronger the bond will grow. Aaron shook his head, trying to make sense of everything she had said. But why me? Why a human? Why did they choose me? The question seemed to linger in the air, unanswered. Aar's smile faded slightly, her eyes darkening for a moment, as if she were recalling something ancient and painful. Because, Aaron, they see something in humanity that no other species does. We see potential, strength, resilience, creativity, qualities that are rare in the universe. The void are a threat to all, and they cannot be stopped by the strength of one species alone. We need the power that comes from the union of different worlds, different strengths. The words, void, echoed in Aaron's mind. He had heard rumors of them, the ancient, terrifying enemies of the Solari. He had no idea how dangerous they were, but the way Elra spoke of them sent a chill through his bones. The void were something that Solari had been fighting for centuries, a force of destruction that couldn't be defeated by strength alone. But the union between a human and auxiliary had the potential to change that. Aaron looked back at Alara, his heart heavy with the weight of her words. He had thought that this marriage, this union, would be just a strange twist of fate, but now it felt like something much more, something that could decide the future of not just his life but the future of both his world and hers. I don't know if I'm ready for this, Aaron admitted, his voice quieter than before. You don't need to be ready, Aaron, Alara replied, her voice warm with understanding. The bond will guide you, and together we will face what comes. Aaron looked at her, feeling a deep connection he couldn't fully explain. His life had been ordinary, simple, but now it was anything but. He had crossed into a new world, one full of mystery, danger, and wonder. Whatever came next, he knew one thing for certain, he wasn't alone. With a deep breath, he took her hand, ready to face whatever the bond in the future held. The days following their union passed in a haze of confusion and awe. Aaron had no idea what to expect, but as the days turned into weeks, he began to feel the strange shifts Alara had spoken of. It wasn't just his mind or his body, it was something deeper, a pull he could feel when he was near her, a connection that stretched beyond the physical. It was like an invisible thread tying him to her, and every time they were together, the bond seemed to grow stronger. Aar had explained that the bond would awaken in time, but Aaron wasn't sure what that meant. It wasn't just the way he felt about her, something inside him was changing too. At first, it was subtle, a new understanding of the world around him. He could hear things he hadn't noticed before, whispers in the air, the hum of machinery, even the smallest sounds that once would have been completely unnoticed. It was as if his senses had sharpened, allowing him to perceive the world in ways that were beyond human. But it didn't stop there. At night, when he slept, strange dreams filled his mind, dreams that felt more real than anything he had ever experienced. He saw visions of distant stars, swirling galaxies, and alien landscapes. He felt like he was walking on worlds that weren't his own, seeing creatures and landscapes that he couldn't fully comprehend. Each dream left him with a feeling of awe but also unease. They were not just dreams, they were memories, or at least fragments of memories. It was as though he was seeing through Ar's eyes, or even the eyes of the Aelari themselves. One evening, after a long day of adjusting to his new life aboard the ship, Aaron found himself alone in a quiet corner of the ship's vast halls. He had been trying to make sense of the overwhelming changes, but the more he thought about it, the more questions piled up. The mysteries of the Salari were far greater than he had ever imagined, the Voidorn, the bond, and what his role in all of this truly was. "Elara," he called, his voice echoing softly through the corridor. A moment later, she appeared from the shadows, her presence graceful and calm. She always seemed to move effortlessly, as if the world itself parted for her. Her eyes locked onto his, and Aaron could feel the familiar pull between them, drawing him in. "I've been feeling different," Aaron said, his voice hesitant. "Strange things. I hear things, see things. I don't know if this is the bond you were talking about, but it's overwhelming." Ar stepped closer, her gaze softening with understanding. "The awakening has begun," she said quietly. "It is only the beginning. What you are feeling is your senses expanding. Your connection to me and to the energy of the Salari is becoming clearer. You are no longer just a human, you are becoming something else, something more." Aaron nodded slowly, still trying to make sense of it all. "But why me? Why did you and the Exilary choose a human? I don't understand why I'm so important in all of this." Ar smiled, but it was a smile tinged with sadness. "It is not about being chosen, Aaron. It is about the potential that lies within humanity. The Exilary have long observed your species. You have a strength in your hearts, a determination that no other race can match. We believe that this strength, when combined with our power, will be the key to defeating the Voidborn." Aaron swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words. The Voidborn, he had heard whispers of them but never the full truth. They were the Exiler's ancient enemies, a force of destruction that had ravaged entire galaxies. But why was humanity so important in this fight? What could they do that the Axillari couldn't? Is this my purpose now?" Ayn asked quietly, the question hanging in the air. "To fight the Voidborn." Ar's expression grew serious, her eyes meeting his with a piercing intensity. "Yes, but not in the way you think. It is not just about fighting, it is about understanding. The bond between us is not just physical, it is mental and spiritual. You will gain insights, new knowledge, new powers that will help us in ways that we cannot yet comprehend. The Exilary cannot fight this battle alone, Aaron. Together, we will unlock the potential of your species, and together we will change the course of the war." Aaron felt a chill run through him at her words. He had always thought of himself as an ordinary man, an engineer on a small colony. He had never imagined that he would be standing on the edge of something so much larger than himself. He had married an alien, and now he was tied to a ward he barely understood. "I don't know if I'm ready for all of this," Aaron admitted, his voice quiet. "I never signed up for war. I never signed up to be part of something so vast." Era placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch warm and reassuring. "You are ready, Aaron, whether you realize it or not. You have always been ready. This is your destiny, just as it is mine. And now we will walk this path together." Aaron looked into her eyes, feeling the weight of her words settle deep within him. He had no idea what the future held, but one thing was clear, his life had changed forever. There was no going back. The connection he shared with Elara, the bond that was growing stronger each day, was only the beginning. The war against the void was coming, and he was now a part of it. He took a deep breath and nodded. "I'm ready." And with that, he knew that his life, his purpose, and his future were no longer his own. They belonged to something greater. Together with Era, he would face the unknown, and whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as one.